Good morning to my friends and family, and welcome to this episode of Jim's 5 a.m. Club. I'm here at Circular Quay train station, waiting for my train. Still running out of order, given the industrial dispute earlier in the week. So I've got about 20 minutes to use up, 20 minutes of time. So I think I'll just go through and do another book summary like we normally do, and at least make this the most productive time of the morning. So the book summary that I've chosen to go through today, and we've done thousands over the past couple of years, is entitled Tiny Noticeable Things by Adrian Webster, TNTs. So Adrian Webster is a sales trainer, and he's got a lot of fantastic hacks, sales hacks. But I'm really impressed with his style, because what he says is that, and I attest to this because I guess we've all felt it over our careers, that sometimes the smallest detail, sometimes the smallest thing has the greatest impact. And it's not what you get in return in terms of a salary or a wage or a contract or whatever. He says that the things that set us apart from other people, the things that we remember most at the end of our career, is the way somebody made us feel. And that feeling could be a positive feeling, or it could be a negative feeling. So what the author here is saying is that there are things called tiny noticeable things that are basically free, they cost nothing, but once delivered they have perpetual sort of impacts. They have an effect which translates and traverses time, and are things which are in some cases cherished and in other cases dreaded for a lifetime. So the author goes on to talk about the fact that he's a sales trainer, and he's seen over time how, in sales teams or in business teams or families or whatever environment you look at, whatever community environment you look at, there is always some people, a handful of people, who just seem to stand out and are truly brilliant. And what Adrian Webster tries to do in this book is he tries to identify what those secret ingredients are that make those handful of people stand out. And the bottom line is that it's nothing really special, but a use of these TNTs, these tiny noticeable things, which are explosive and creative in the right hands. He goes on to talk about the importance of making teamwork and teams fun. And he goes on to say, and for those who have been in sales at some point throughout their lives, of which I have, my wife and I had a mobile phone business which we had for about 3 years, which was a challenge, but I learned a lot there, as did my daughters, and I guess that's probably helped them in their sales careers. But the author here talks about the importance of turning sales into a game and using game mentality to make it interesting Because when you're in sales, when you're in competitive environments, you need to get used to rejection. And the author says that rejection basically should be treated and received as an accolade. Because if you're being rejected, it means that you're doing something. And we need to try and identify the things that motivate everyday people who end up conquering their own Everests. By all means, you've got stars, you've got champions who go on to do tremendous things in their lives and make the news. Books are written about them, and absolute stars and celebrities in their own right. But the author says that we're also surrounded by lots and lots of people who are motivated every day to do simple things, to go to work, make a difference. And those people are, in fact, in their own way, conquering their own Everest, and are just as famous, if not more famous, than the people that we know. But these people basically go undiscovered. But these are the real people. These are the real people of the world, the everyday people. But as we said, these people too are absolute champions in their way, and they stand out within their own communities, but may not stand out if you see them on the train, or if you see them on a bus, or if you see them sitting in the pew at the church. But there are lots of people who have some talents and who are masters of these things called TNTs, tiny noticeable things. So the author then goes on to talk about the importance of understanding how the brain works and how we're wired, because we can take advantage of that knowledge and use it to springboard and get the best out of ourselves and each other. And the author reminds us that the brain is the only computer in creation that can actually recreate itself and create its own connections. The fact that you can rebuild and rewire your brain through a thing called the plasticity of the brain is absolutely amazing and tremendous. And we come to know about this through plasticity, through neuroscience, knowing that the brain is constantly growing, developing, creating new connections. And by knowing this, you can basically take control, if you wish, and improve your brain performance. It's amazing how we will know lots of things about lots of topics, but very, very few people understand or know about how the brain actually works, or what makes the brain perform better. So this author then goes on to talk about a few things, a few life hacks that can make us peak performance contributors and peak performers by just understanding a few things about the brain, so that we too can make the best use of the supercomputer that we have available to us. The first thing that the author talks about is the importance of being hydrated, of drinking water, being hydrated, because when you first wake up in the morning, and it just makes sense, it just makes perfect sense. When you wake up in the morning, you're basically dehydrated because you've been sleeping all night for 7, 8, 9, 10 hours, and your body is basically in a state of dehydration because by your respiratory processes, by just breathing in and out, you're basically exhaling water droplets. So you're basically dehydrated in the morning, first thing when you get up. So the first exercise, the first thing you can do that can have the greatest impact on your brain performance is to drink some water. When you get out of bed, drink a glass or two of water so that you can rehydrate yourself and rehydrate your brain, so that your brain is not suffering and struggling with dehydration. Because at the end of the day, your brain is mainly made up of water. So the more water you have available to your brain, the better and healthier your brain is going to be. The next topic that the author talks about is the importance of sleep. How sleep is critical to your growth and development. And that's why babies tend to sleep a lot. That's why puppies tend to sleep a lot. That's why as teenagers we sleep a lot more than what we do when we're in our 60s. I remember when I was in my teenage years, I'd be able to sleep till 12, 1 o'clock in the afternoon, and sometimes miss university. And I was thinking back then that there was something wrong with me. Whereas now I can get through, I can get through the night with 5 or 6 hours of sleep. But ideally, we all should be getting lots and lots of sleep, because according to this author here, it's during your sleep, during quality sleep, that your brain actually builds new connections. It does all the important connective work, and you tend to be able to rinse out the toxins from your brain and from the cells in your body. And it's during sleep that you are engaging and doing the repair work. Now you're repairing your cells, you're repairing your kidneys, you're repairing all of those other things in your body that need repair. So your body is in a state of constant replenishment, where cells are swapped out and nutrients are delivered, and your body is basically growing and developing and repairing and recreating. But all of that happens not when you're functioning, not when you're working, not when you're going through and pushing your body to its limits. All of those things happen when you're shut down, when you're sleeping, when you're in a coma. During sleep, your body will go through and do all the things that it needs to do. The other thing that the author talks about in terms of brain performance is the importance of exercise. You need to keep moving, you need to exercise your body, because by exercising your body, you're basically improving your brain performance, because you're getting blood pumping around your body, you get blood pumping through your brain, you get nutrients moving around your body. And exercise is something which is absolutely critical to keeping you young physically, mentally, and I guess spiritually as well. So a few important things to consider there, but drinking first thing in the morning and rehydrating is something which is critical for each and every one of us. And I guess we're all guilty of being dehydrated. And the last thing you want to do is get up first thing in the morning, don't drink any water, and hammer a few coffees, because that will make you even more dehydrated and make you feel lethargic, tired, and unable to concentrate and focus and think clearly. So the author here says that it's important to do those things that we just talked about, because it will aid your concentration, your focus, your thinking, and the key to our lives is basically to get the best performance that we can with what we've got, the resources we've got available to us. And the catch cry that the author talks about is that he says that he wants us, he wants people, he wants his team who are shining at 60 watts, but he wants them to be shining at 100 watts. So what can we do? What can we do? What simple things can we do to get us to stretch to 100 watter, to be a 100 watt shiner? Given that most of us tend to be happy to shine at 60 watts, what more do we need to do? And it's the job of a great leader, you know, as opposed to a manager, to be able to get people, to get their team to reach peak performance and to deliver peak performance time and time again. So one of the key messages that comes out of this book here is that, of course, there's a great difference between a great leader and a great manager. But the difference is only minute, is only tiny. You know, but it's those tiny noticeable things, the TNT, that differentiate a manager from a leader. You know, as a leader, we need to learn and understand that it's okay to make mistakes. It's okay to do things differently. But most importantly, the job of a leader is to pull each other and push each other and prod each other to bigger and better things, to be able to get each member of the team to freely collaborate and cooperate, and to understand that within each environment, within each team environment, you know, there could be up to different, 4 different types of people. You know, we're not all the same. We don't all function the same. There could be up to 4 or 5 different types of people that you deal with on a daily basis. And within each of those teams, there could be 4 or 5 different generations, age generations, that vary or impact the way each of these people deal or collaborate with each other, given that they've been born into a different time and space and they function differently. But the common element, according to this author, that draws us all together is that all people need to have a sense of progress. A sense of progress. So the 3 key items that people want from their leaders or want from each other is they want time. They want people to give them their time. Time is the most valuable of all resources. So the gift of time is something, according to this author, that people crave. So just by knowing that you can give time to people can make the biggest impact and the biggest difference. And basically what the author was saying here is that it costs you nothing being able to give the gift of time. Anyway, I'll just jump on the train here and head off to Mascot. I mentioned before that with the industrial action that we've been having, trains have been running out of order. So today, whilst a train would be coming past normally every 2 or 3 minutes, today the trains are coming past every half an hour or so, so delayed services and impacting our time. So as we said before, one of those TNTs, tiny noticeable things that people appreciate, is when you give them the gift of time. The second thing that people lust for and crave for is for people to be caring, to feel that people care for them. So being caring is a very, very important lesson that comes from this book. And being caring doesn't cost you anything. It's just a way of thinking, just a way of speaking. It's a tone that you use. It's things that you notice the small things that you notice in other people, and it makes them feel that they're noticed and they're cared for. And the third point, the third common element that this author talks about is the importance of being human and being vulnerable. And that's why the author says that pencils are created, are manufactured with a rubber on the end of it. Cars come with bumper bars, because at the end of the day, we're all human, we're all fallible, and we all make mistakes. So being human and knowing that we are all vulnerable and fallible is an important thing to aid in our ability to interact with the people that we work with, people that we're family with, and people that we are in communion with. So the author says that there's quite a few of these common elements that draw us all together. But the next thing that the author talks about is the importance of being able to expand and grow. And he talks about standing on the front doorstep. Because in order to grow and expand, you need to be able to lean just outside the comfort zone. Because it's just outside the comfort zone that your brain is expanding and creating new connections. If you're doing the same thing over and over again, then you're not going to be growing, you're not going to be expanding, and your brain is going to be regressing. So it's important just to keep yourself fresh and to keep pushing, growing and developing. And the author uses the analogy of the bubble wrap path, that you have micro goals and things and tasks that you do every day just to push yourself, just to draw yourself a little bit more forward. And as you're walking along, you can hear the popping of the bubble wrap as you're achieving things. Because what this does is it fires off dopamine in your brain, the pleasure hormones, and it basically keeps you bubbling along, and it keeps you kept up, and it makes you, feel as if you're contributing, growing and developing, which is probably the key element that we all need in our lives.
Please stand clear.
So the author here talks about the importance of making sure as a manager that you're not getting comfortable, because managers, leaders who get comfortable don't want to change the status quo. They just want the salary to keep on coming through without doing anything different. And what it does is it puts them and their teams at risk. And the bottom line here, according to what the author was saying, is that we need to stop whinging, we need to stop carrying on, because whinging about a manager, whinging about a team, whinging about other people is just like, just like whinging and complaining about the weather. You can't change the weather. Today it'll be raining, it'll be windy, or whatever it's going to be. You have to understand that there are certain things that are not going to change. The weather is not going to change, and it's outside your control. Your manager at work isn't going to change. There are certain things in our environment that are not going to change, but what we can change is we can change the way we see things, that we can change the way we approach things, and we can manage the way we deal with things. So you have to understand is that you're going to be with people who are going to be negative. You're not going to be able to change them. You're going to be with people who are anti-vaxxers, with freedom wankers, with people who have got all these conspiracy theories, and you simply are not going to change them. And we need to understand that there are certain people in our lives that are going to light up the room as soon as they leave because of their negativity. But shouldn't stop us trying to be different and trying to execute and use these tiny, noticeable things which make a big difference and create a boom, an explosion. They have a seismic impact in people's lives because they exceed expectations and basically make people feel cared for, show people that you're human, and give people the gift of time. I remember many years ago working for a company called Advantra and having a manager whose name was Benson Liu, a great individual. And I was working back night after night, putting in the massive hours to work on different bids and spending a lot of time in the office and not as much time as possible at home with my wife and my young family. And I remember one day going home and my wife coming to the door and hugging me, and my children coming and patting me on the back and making a fuss over me, and I'm saying, what happened? And unbeknownst to me, my manager, Benson Liu, sent my wife a most magnificent bouquet of flowers in a nice pot with a lovely little note, a handwritten note, thanking me and thanking her for me working back late in order to get some major projects completed. And I remember how stoked, how chuffed I was at that recognition, because what it did was it made me look like a hero in my wife's and children's eyes. So these tiny, noticeable things have seismic impacts, and it made a big difference in my career life at that time, because as we said, it made me feel different, it made my wife feel different, and my children feel different. And what did it cost? It may have costed $100 or so, but it had an effect which was far-reaching. Anyway, this book is all about those little things that make the biggest difference to clients, to employees, and to the others around us. So the call to action is to look for tiny, noticeable things which are free and easy to incorporate. Things like handwritten notes, just letting people know that you appreciate them, that you care for them, that you've got time for them. All of these things make a difference. Anyway, I'll finish up now, so thank you very much for joining me on this episode of Jim's 12 AM Club, and we'll chat again. Bye for now.